remind everyone, we have a lot of people here that we need to just speak one person at a time. And please use the microphones so that anyone in the audience at home can hear what we're saying. So,
Take some big calls.
we on? We on? Okay. This is the Wednesday evening, July 12th, Conservation Commission meeting. Town of Walpole, amended order of conditions, Conservation Commission public hearing in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Wetlands Protection Act. Notice hereby given the intent of Howard Stein Hudson / FRH Realty LLC and 55 SS LLC to amend the approved order of conditions DEP number 315-1227 at 55 Summer Street, Walpole, Mass. For modifications to the previously approved development plan, including reduction of wetland impact and reduction of the development footprint within the 100-foot buffer zone. The amended order conditions, application, and plans are on file at the Conservation Commission office. Public hearing on the above matter will be held in person on July 12th, 2023, beginning 7 p.m. All interested persons requested to be present. Representing the applicant,
Mr. Chairman, I'm David Hale from 55 SS LLC, and I'm here with Patrick Bogle from Howard Stein Hudson. And Patrick will walk the board through the changes that we're requesting.
we have some things to read into the record. This is from the town engineer. He reviewed the plans, and I understand the project was previously peer-reviewed, therefore we suggest Conservation Commission engage the original peer review firm to review the modifications. If we find issues while we review for other utilities, et cetera, we will provide comment. From the Board of Health, the Board of Health will not be meeting before comments are due on July 12th, therefore Board of Health would like to make comments based on the Board of Health standard motion. The Board of Health is not in favor of construction within the 100-foot buffer zone. Board of Health urges future homeowners to adopt the standard best practices for mosquito mitigation and to work with Norfolk County Mosquito Control for spraying and standing water treatments. Okay, this is, you want to read this in or just reference it? We have a letter dated July 10th from Bill Hamilton. And referencing this project, and it just would be referenced that this is in the file. If anyone does need to review it, it'll be available. Okay. It looks like there are a number of issues here, but some of which I don't know if they're pertinent for conservation. And this is, okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. Patrick Bogle from Howard Stein Hudson. Would you like me to present from here or in front of the board?
Whatever you're going to show us on the board should be presented to the board. You're going to show it on the easel.
Yep. So I can
Present it
bring.
to the board,
Okay,
yes.
great. Thank you.
If you let us know what sheet you're on, then Stephanie could perhaps find it and get it up on the screen.
Yep. So this is. I'm going to start off with the same material that I presented at the last board, just for clarification, and then I'm going to go to that presentation plan that I sent you earlier today. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So, to remind the board, so we are looking to modify the existing permitted project to remove, the majority of the work is happening on Lot 2, which
Excuse me, what sheet are you on here?
this is dated, called as the red line.
Is it in here?
Do we have it?
We have truck turning plan, we have a truck turning plan.
What's the number on the sheet?
This was an exhibit plan that was previously submitted, dated June 6th.
Oh, so from the last meeting, not in this package.
Yes. No, it wasn't from the plan set.
Okay, go ahead.
So this is the red line plan that was submitted, detailing the changes between the previously approved conformance plans and the new layout, detailing kind of the difference between the two. So we have on Lot 1, we have the removal of driveway B, which has the 2 townhouse units, and that's pretty much it in favor of the mail kiosk. On Lot 2, we have the single-family units along driveway D, which are being removed, and the cul-de-sac units, the entire cul-de-sac as well as all the single families, so all 56 single families are no longer being constructed in favor of a rental project, which is going to be a multifamily building and 3 townhouse units, 2 6 units and 1 4 unit. Where the previously proposed and approved cul-de-sacs and single families are, it's just going to be the crossing and the emergency access back out to Summer Street. We have the same 268 number of units between the 2 lots, and just some parking arrays between adjacent to the multifamily building that's on Lot 2, as well as the conforming amount of parking per the previously approved decision. Overall, there's a reduction, as you can see, in impervious and reduction amount of development. On Lot 2, you have, let me switch plans here. It's a colored up plan, which I previously submitted earlier today, which kind of shows the overall development colored up between, you have the impervious shown as well as the building shown, and the areas for the stormwater. And on this area here, you can tell there's a significant reduction for just, you only have the proposed infiltration pond here. And that's kind of a high level overview of the changes to the, yeah, there you go, that's the red line plan. High level overview of the changes to the plan. For stormwater, the stormwater, kind of how the program works is going to be very similar to how it previously was designed. There's a pocket well in here, which is going to handle everything from the crossing, this entrance to the crossing, and that'll still remain as designed. This center area is going to be an infiltration pond, as well as the addition of 2 storm techs. All of Lot 1 is going to be basically, is going to be identical to how it was in the conformance plans, with the exception of you have the reduction here of this townhouse unit, which was flopped onto Lot 2. And then where the emergency access goes out, you have the infiltration pond, which handles just that runoff from the other side of the crossing. Yeah. So, any questions? Or I can go into any more detail if anybody is looking for additional detail.
Liz?
Well, are we gonna actually do anything with this giant set of plans?
No, that's a truck turnaround plan.
Why do we have,
So the truck turnaround plan there just is very similar to the truck turnaround that was in the conformance plans, but it just details how the truck turning will work with the new layout.
that's not our jurisdiction.
So why don't we have a set of plans that shows what you're talking about?
That was all submitted with the package on.
No, these plans aren't anything like what you're talking about.
So there was a full package submitted on June 20th that had all the design for the entire site. Yeah, stamped and signed on June 20th. It had all the grading, layout, landscaping.
Ah, Maybe they're coming. It seems weird to have a truck turnaround plan.
Yeah, we actually didn't submit the truck turning to conservation. We only sent that to ZBA.
So they resubmitted the whole plan set. Which Stephanie is sending out in.
So start at the beginning and
So what page
tell
are
us
we on
what
here?
page we're on, so we can follow you.
Yeah.
So if you go to the open space and recreation plan, which I think is maybe sheet 13. Yeah.
Sheet 13.
That'll probably give you a very similar overview of what this is, but this one's in color. That should show you the open space area, the developed area, areas for recreation, as well as, I think it has outlines of stormwater as well. And that's pretty much an overview of what this is. And like I just walked you through, kind of how the stormwater will work on the site, and as the changes, which are shown on this plan, and how we went from the single family to the rental portion.
Did you send that PDF to?
This PDF? I sent it to you. Oh, yes, I sent it to you. I apologize if I was supposed to CC you.
She's the.
Is there anything specific you would like me to walk you through?
Okay, why don't we just start as usual. Landis?
So it sounds from the way that you presented before and the way the plan is presented tonight, the main changes that you're making is that the lower part of that plan in front of you, that there used to be single-family houses there, and now they're going to be 4-story.
This would be a 4-story, 56-unit multifamily building. It'll be very similar to the 70-unit building here, but smaller and one less door.
So the project on the upper left-hand side
Mhm.
hasn't changed,
No, this is
except you remove some units where the wetlands are, and if you can point to where you remove units.
yeah. So we had one 4-unit townhouse here, which was closer to the vernal pool area. So that was flopped onto the other side of lot 2.
And the
As
other
well as-
buildings, the 1, 2, 3, 4 buildings that you have after where you remove buildings, those are the same.
These are in the same location.
And the stormwater for those apartment buildings that remain the same
Mhm.
and those 4 buildings that remain the same is the same.
Yes, and so these all here, all the same, yeah.
So the modification to the stormwater is just the lower part of the project where it changed from single-family houses to apartment buildings.
Yep, there was a slight modification of this pond here to adjust with the small adjustment of the alignment of this road. It got a little closer here, and then because of that, we had there was some storm tax added to handle this roof runoff, as well as take up some additional capacity.
You could point to the sheet in the larger packet that addresses that area so they can see it more in detail.
Sure, that'll be grading sheets, which I have
Twenty
here.
shows that.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Sheet 20 shows your drainage
The
basin.
grading sheet, yeah. So grading sheet 20
20?
has the detailed grading plans. So if you go to
That would be C20.
C20, yes.
C20.
Is there another number?
So is the stormwater increasing or decreasing, or really just modifying how you handle it?
So, yes, the stormwater flows are very similar in the 210 and 25. The 100-year flow and volume are decreased from the previous design. And that's shown in the supplemental data report. There's a sheet that has, the difference between the pre and post flows, which it was previously in the conformance plans as well, and that details the change as well as all the conformance with the TSS calcs and everything like that.
And the C20 plan that we're now looking at has two infiltration. You're infiltrating the stormwater, the darker areas. Those are
Yes, so here is the pond, right here, the infiltration pond 1, again, which is a slight adjustment to what it previously was. It had a bit more volume here. So we adjusted the volume and then took up some of this additional volume with these storm techs under the parking array. And this one overflows back to the pond, and this one just infiltrates and then overflows to overlaying flow.
And the envelope of the limit of work is the same, you're not, you're still out of the 200-foot riverfront area.
Yep, no adjustments to the 200-foot riverfront. A couple silt fence adjustments along here, still out of the 25-foot, no disturb.
And that would be the wetlands that is at the upper
This center wetland here.
portion of C20.
Yes, but overall, it's the same or reduction.
So other than C20, is there another plan that you have modified the design?
So yes, if you go to, you can also see it on C21
C-22.
and and C22, yes, for sure.
So
That'll show all of anything on lot 2 you're gonna see grading adjustments for the adjustment of the road, the stormwater, the ponds for the emergency access, which you can see on C22. You see the emergency access, a slight alignment change here, which also yielded a slight reduction in the second wetland.
C22.
C22, yep, you have a slight reduction here in the crossing impact, and then you have some grading associated and the piping for the infiltration pond. For this section, again, is a,
Road construction is like bigger.
exactly, yeah, and high point here, high point obviously at Summer Street, that comes down to the low point, pipes in. Very, very similar drain, almost identical drainage patterns to the previous design, just reduction.
So I didn't have a lot of technical questions for this because the envelope was the same. They weren't, as was discussed at the last meeting when the commission was trying to decide if it was a new notice of intent, if it was amended plan. They're not working on any additional wetlands resource areas. The envelope is pretty much the same. There would be some modifications to stormwater, which Patrick is explaining some. They also have to go back before the ZBA for a modification to the 40B. And, I talked to Patrick DeShanes a little bit about that, and I don't think it warrants both of us hiring a peer reviewer, but as long as one of the boards is hiring a peer reviewer to go over the changes or modifications to the stormwater. And what I thought, since their consultant will be going over other issues as well, that maybe it's easier for them just to also take on the stormwater issue. But obviously, it's up to the commission, however you guys feel. If you want to do a peer review on the stormwater, then I can let them know. But it didn't seem like there were a lot of changes that affected the conservation.
Has a peer review been selected for ZBA?
Not that I know of, but I would assume it was the same one that
I believe it would probably
Yeah.
be the same one.
Tetra Tech.
Yes, so I did speak with Patrick.
Identify yourself, please.
David Hale with 55 SS LLC. I spoke with Patrick DeShane this afternoon. He said it would very likely be the same peer review, which is Tetra Tech.
Okay. But they are not on board yet. Is
So
that
we haven't opened the hearing. We opened the hearing on Monday. So,
zoning? Okay.
yes, I know that there is a proposal from Tetra Tech, and so I suspect that they'll be selected on Monday night, and we'll do the peer review, which they've done before.
Okay. I think that makes sense to use the same peer review for what changes are made here.
Right, and the commission hired a peer reviewer for the original filing, but it was mostly the wetlands issues that Beta concentrated on the wetlands issues.
Okay. We'll go through the board, and then we'll open it up to the audience for any questions or comments. Dean?
No questions.
Haley?
No questions.
Doug?
I have one. I was wondering if you could describe when the fire department does flushing on the proposed fire hydrants, where's that water going to flow? I see the drawing showing proposed fire hydrants. So
Yes.
when they flush them, can you describe where that water will flow?
Yeah, so they could,
What sheet have you got there?
Oh, you're asking me?
oh, this is sheet C20. Um,
C20.
So just hydrants, when they flush, could go into one of the basins if it needed to, and which there are several around, and or I'm sure they have the ability to have some sort of dissipation and go to overland flow.
Okay.
All right.
My experience is it goes in the street and
Yeah.
catch basins,
Yeah.
wherever that goes.
Well, that's what I was wondering, where would it flow if they just didn't direct it anywhere, if they just open
Yeah.
it wide?
Just goes down the road and catch basin.
But where are those catch basins on the drawing?
There are several catch basins. There's never a catch basin more than 300 feet apart. And we're capturing less than, per the stormwater requirements, less than 1,200 square feet of impervious per catch basin. So they're all, I think there's like 60 on the site, so that's significant. They all have full sumps, and they will always outlet to some sort of pre-treatment, whether it's sediment forebay or some sort of isolated row or something.
Anything else, Doug?
Okay, that's it.
Medio?
I would just agree with using the same consultant as the ZBA. You said that they're, yeah, so there's no sense in duplicating that effort, so I would agree with that. That's all.
Betsy?
Yeah, no comment?
Al?
I want to see what the peer review shows us, to see if they agree that it's minor adjustments, so that, because from this presentation tonight, it doesn't give us enough information to make a determination on the validity of that, so I'll wait and see what the reviewer comes up with.
Okay. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Please identify yourself for the record. Yes. You use the microphone. Is there one,
Take this one.
can you borrow? Okay.
Introduce yourself.
Hi, Bill Hamilton, Precinct 5. I submitted a letter to the board, to the Conservation Commission. I would like to have the New England environmental law firm McGregor, Laguerre, and Stevens somehow employed to give advice to the Conservation Commission. McGregor was legal counsel for Walpole when the Water Resource Protection Overlay District was enacted. And it is not a local bylaw. He is currently representing a citizens group in North Walpole. In my opinion, the 40B building proposed may cause the numerous plumes of hazardous chemicals being monitored by Woods, hydrologist, for Baker Hughes in the aquifer which is shared below the 40B and Bird Machine, some of which have contaminations above drinking water standards. Now, Baker Hughes, through another party, tried to have a 500-unit age-qualified village developed on the Bird Machine property. it was not allowed because of the contamination below Bird Machine. Now, that's the same aquifer that this 40B is over. Now, if this 40B causes water levels to drop, which is common in construction, to change the water table, if that simulates tidal changes like down Cape Cod, and these plumes of pollution start moving, they could move down Washington Street to the School Meadow Brook, and we may have contamination that we, at this point in our career, can't treat or don't have the chemicals or facility to treat it. That could be a very big hardship on Walpole. I know they're considering buying water from the MWRA, but when I was on the Conservation Commission and I attended all the seminars, many of which were by Gregor, they had the MWRA supplying 80% of the population of Massachusetts with water. So I think if we had a disaster, and I know people expect that the MWRA will come in and provide emergency assistance and water to us, but I don't know if they could provide 2.5 million gallons a day. I doubt that. Now, if they did, it would be a real crunch for them. Now, I know dumping happened and the plumes of toxic material are being monitored. A test plan below the 40B needs to happen because I know that no one thought illegal dumping happened at Bird Machine, but when it was discovered that it did happen and we tested it, we found the contamination, and now there are family members who worked, whose families worked at Bird Machine, and they at different times explained that some of the dumping went over across the tracks and landed on that parcel of land that Bird Machine has sold to the 40B. So it sounds only reasonable that testing be done. So I would hope that the Water Resource Protection Overlay District would be enforced. And my understanding is it's considered a local bylaw which the 40B can ignore. Now, I also was shocked when the HAC allowed the preserve to be built on top of our best resource for a future well site. Now, that's gone because of the HAC. When I talked to members of the HAC, they said the town of Walpole never informed them that the preserve was being built on our drinking water supply, and it was. Now, we can't do anything about that now. Now, some people still think that water comes under the preserve. It may, but remember, when you build on top of the aquifer, you take water out of the aquifer when you lower the water table. All that unsorted sand and gravel now settles to the floor of the aquifer, and that creates dams. And water meanders close to the floor of the aquifer, and if we divert water from School Meadow Brook through this project, we'll have no dilution to keep those toxic materials that have been identified at School Meadow Brook wellheads in parts per trillion. Now, they're low enough that we can still drink the water, but if we cause the dilution to create the parts per trillion to rise, we may have a problem delivering drinking water to Walpole.
Can you proceed on? I think some of this is how pertinent this is. I think you made your point. Can you continue? You have any more to make, Bill?
Well, I'm hoping that the town will hire Gregor McGregor to come in and help with this, because he's an expert on environmental law and he helped us, and he can show that the Water Resource Protection Overlay District is not a local bylaw and it should be observed. And I worked in the field with IEP, and now we need to protect our water. If we don't, And if we get into a hardship with water and MWRA can't supply enough, then the law requires that Walpole stop selling water to commercial customers, which would be a big hardship on the tax base of Walpole.
You're proposing, you're suggesting something that is very speculative. So do you have anything else to bring up?
No, but I hope everyone reads the testimony that I submitted.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment, question? Yes. You want to come up and, to the microphone, please?
Hi. My name is Kathleen Cleary. I live at 3 Shufelt Road. This seems maybe foolish, but one of my concerns is the blacktop material. I've done some investigation, and there's 2 types of blacktop, recycled and pure virgin. Anything that's used to recycle has oils, more oils in it that could permeate into our water. So I would like to hear from the developers that only 100% pure blacktop material will be utilized for this development. No recycled blacktop material, asphalt, will be utilized. Can you give that commitment?
Can you address that?
I actually can't address that. That it will be handled during construction, and I don't know the answer to that at the moment.
Okay.
So based on that,
Wait a minute, just use the microphone, please.
So based on that, like I said, non-virgin asphalt has existing oils from prior sites, so it's recycled from other construction sites, and it can be reutilized. And we do not want that type of material sitting on top of our water, because the oils will permeate through the soil, riding on Mr. Hamilton's comments about contaminating the water. Yeah, 100%. A restriction saying that it has to be 100% virgin asphalt utilized on the construction project. Nothing, and it has to be certified.
Thank you.
Could I respond to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we are using Mass DOT spec for both the pavement and the parking areas. So
What is Mass DOT spec?
Mass DOT spec 1 I-1.
Oh, well, I just mean, what does it mean to the layperson that's eagerly listening, including me? What does that even mean? Like, what does the DOT put on? Reassuring or not?
I'm just saying it's an approved Mass DOT spec asphalt.
So it could be recycled, but it could be pure, depending on what's in stock.
But I think the point is that we're going to use what's allowed under the regulations, and I don't specifically know what that is, but we'll use what is allowed under the regulations.
Okay. Anything else to add, Patrick? Yeah. Did you want to add anything else?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
You use the microphone, please.
Yes. Bill Hamilton, I don't care what the specs allow. I think she's made an excellent point, and the conservation put a restriction on this project that they follow what she requested.
We heard you. We heard you.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else have any questions or comments? Please identify yourself. Okay. Hearing none, I think we need to, before we do anything, is get the report from the consultant on the stormwater. And we can look at, can you send us the, what you're using? You just referenced the Mass DOT for the asphalt.
Sure.
Can you send that to us so we can look at that, see what that is? You can look, we can look into that?
Sure.
Okay.
So, I agree. I think it would be worth for you as well to just continue it to at least get the first round from the consultant on stormwater, and I can talk to Patrick to see if they can address that early on, so Mission has the benefit of that information.
Did you want to say anything else?
Yeah, I think it makes sense to continue until the ZBA is concluded and you have a chance to review the stormwater.
Yeah, I don't know if we have to wait, I don't know how long their hearing will go on, but I think if we get the stormwater report, that's mainly our
Okay.
concern. We can see how that hearing goes, but, so I guess at this point, you're opening Monday, is that correct? You said,
Yes.
With the zoning? Okay.
Yes.
Our next meeting is August 9th, I think. Do you know what their procedure is, how many, their hearings after that? You're just on for,
Yeah.
you just have one date with zoning
We
at
just
this
have,
point?
we just have one date. I think it's fair to assume that they are going to do stormwater management, so will be continued. I believe their August meeting is after yours.
So we could realistically then look at the September meeting?
Yep.
Okay, what's our first meeting in September?
Good question. September 13th would be the second Wednesday in September, the 13th and the 27th.
So, 13th or the 27th? Do you have,
I think the 13th.
okay. At this point, we'll continue this. If it is, we can continue it on if they're not finished, don't have the information that we're looking for.
Okay.
So someone make a motion to continue this until September 13th at 7 PM?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
700, thank you.
This is the last meeting we're gonna do. The last meeting was the last one. Can I take this?
Oh, it's a memoir.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Conversation stopper. Want to know more about it?
How about those Palestinians, huh? Bill Hamilton? Oh, he's a character. Town fixture.
All right, we're doing the sidewalks now.
This is Main Street.
Take your time, you're good.
Bill of Walpole, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, notice of intent, Conservation Commission, in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act. Notice hereby given the intent of Massachusetts Department of Transportation to make improvements along the northern side of Main Street in Walpole, Mass, which includes reconstructing and extending the sidewalk from east footing of the bridge that crosses the Ponset River in the area of 1121 Main Street to approximately 250 feet east of Greenwood Road, including new drainage and traffic infrastructure within the 100-foot buffer zone. Notice of intent application and plans are filed with Conservation Commission Office. Public hearing in the above matter will be held in person July 12, 2023, beginning at 7:05 PM. All interested persons are going to be present. I'll read this in first. This is from the town engineer. Reviewed the plans, and reviewed the plans and have no technical comments. We do support DOT's effort to improve the sidewalks in this area. The Board of Health will not be meeting before the comments are due on July 12th. Therefore, the Health Department would like to make comments based on Board of Health standard motion. The Board of Health is not in favor of construction within the 100-foot buffer zone. So that is, yes. Now, representing the applicant,
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name is Peter Ellison. I'm a civil engineer with TEC representing the Mass DOT. And here with me tonight is Courtney Walker and Nick Barbosa from Mass DOT as well. So like you said, the purpose of this project is to fill in a gap in the sidewalks along Main Street. It's about 1,050 feet of sidewalks that run from the Neponset River towards downtown, 250 feet east of Greenwood Road. So there's an existing sidewalk that exists south of the bridge over the Neponset River, and at that point, the sidewalk ends. There's no crosswalk currently, so pedestrians are either forced to walk along the shoulder of the road or cut across Main Street at an unmarked location. So that's what brings us here tonight, is just to build some sidewalks and fill in that gap. As far as the resource areas go, all the action, I see you have sheet 3 up. All the action is on sheet 3 of the plans, where the Neponset River crosses Main Street. There's bordering vegetated wetland and inland bank located along the Neponset River, which has a 100-foot buffer zone associated with it. There are no direct or temporary impacts to either of those resource areas. However, due to the proximity of where the sidewalks are proposed to the river, there are impacts to that 100-foot buffer zone. There's also bordering land subject to flooding associated with the river. However, the elevation of the floodplain is below the elevation of the road, so our sidewalks have no impact on bordering land subject to flooding. And finally, the riverfront area is 200 feet from the Neponset River. We are proposing 1,455 square feet of impacts within the 200-foot riverfront area. 591 of those are temporary, meaning it's just proposed grading within existing grass or pervious areas, and at the end of the day, those will go back to being grass areas. We just need that area to work during construction. And 864 square feet of permanent impacts to the riverfront area, and those are just associated with the new 5.5-foot hot mix asphalt sidewalks that are being proposed. There's also 990 square feet of existing pavement within our limit of work that's also within that riverfront area, so that is actually considered exempt under the Wetlands Protection Act as existing impervious area within the riverfront. I think it's important to note that where these impacts are proposed within the riverfront area, it's an existing roadway shoulder along Main Street. You know, it's previously disturbed. A lot of it is either poorly maintained, dying grass or gravel area that we're going to transform, put up new vertical granite curbing and asphalt sidewalks. As far as mitigation goes, we're proposing silt sacks and some form of erosion control, either a filter tube or a silt fence during construction to prevent any type of sedimentation from reaching the river. There's one existing catch basin within the limit of work that will replace. That catch basin is fairly dated, so it does not have a deep sump. So the one that we replace it with will be an upgrade. It'll be a deep sump and hooded catch basin that, you know, provides 25% TSS removal under the stormwater regulations. And finally, everyone will see some improved collection of stormwater along Main Street by creating that hard edge with the vertical granite curb. We'll be able to, you know, direct the water directly into those catch basins and get it off the street faster. So finally, as far as permitting goes, this was submitted to Mass DEP. It was issued number 315-1925, and no technical comments have been made to date. So with that being said, I would turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman, and see if you have any questions.
Landis?
So I was on vacation for last week, so I've had limited time to review some of the plans tonight, so I apologize if I'm not giving really detailed information like I sometimes do. But can you just explain a little bit the construction process? So you're gonna go in there and take out a certain amount of material that's existing? You can just put it in a truck, or how, are you gonna have a staging area? Can you just explain a little bit, the construction of the sidewalk?
Sure, yep. So, again, we're on the north or the west side of Main Street. And what will happen, the contractor's typical kind of construction style would be one lane or one side of the road will be closed off with barrels. There'll be a police detail out there. Typically, on linear projects like this, they'll come in, they'll saw cut the edge of the pavement to create a clean edge. And then they'll come back, they'll come through with an excavator and a truck right in front of that excavator. They'll scoop out the material that needs to be pulled, put it into the truck, and then continue to move up the line. Once that process is done and it's cleared, they would come in with the curbing crew, set all the vertical granite curbing with concrete, get all of the gravel underneath the sidewalks in place, and then finally the last step would be to pour the asphalt sidewalks.
So it's pretty much scoop, truck, and then.
That's exactly right.
not much
Yep,
staging
everything.
area or anything.
No stockpiling, everything kind of gets exported off-site. It's a linear project, so it'll happen in that manner, kind of like work your way up the street. Yeah.
Yeah, and just if, while after you take the pavement up and scoop the material, if you have a significant rain event with a linear path, you'll have on-site or available erosion control that you may need quickly if possible, or?
Yeah, we typically, contractors do typically have some kind of staging area nearby that they can go to and from with their materials. It's pretty common for them to have extra filter tube or silt fence in that case. That being said, that's the first thing that will get installed prior to construction is that filter tube or silt fence along the limit of work line. All of the drainage patterns that exist out there today will be maintained. There's a few catch basins nearby the limit of work. Those will have silt sacks in them. So all the water will continue to go where it does today during and after construction.
Oh, I don't really have any other comments. Obviously, I think sidewalks is a good thing, and there's minimum work being done. The new concrete sidewalks up on Washington Street, and sidewalks further down on 1A, so kind of familiar with the process.
Dean?
Can you, you planning on putting your erosion and mitigation plans before saw cutting?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep, no other questions?
No questions?
One question, the asphalt sidewalk, will it be the recycled asphalt or?
DOT spec, just say that.
Yeah, exactly. I knew you were going to ask us that. I actually don't know the answer to that. Obviously, this is Mass DOT, so the material will have to meet their spec. I can guarantee you that whatever we use is perfectly acceptable construction. It's very standard construction material. It comes from an asphalt batch plant. And certainly would be, something that's acceptable by Mass DEP.
Emilio?
So this is what, year 3 of the Main Street reconstruction? Year 3, 4, lost count. Hold on.
This is way south of that.
Different.
This is a separate project.
Oh,
Separate project.
This is south of town.
south, I'm sorry, I apologize. Okay, then was it? Okay, that, never mind.
Country Kitchen.
Yeah. This is.
No, this is not near Country
No,
Kitchen.
this is before the big tree.
This is down near Greenwood.
Oh,
Near the train station.
now you confuse me. You messing with me now? Okay, no, I'm sorry.
It's on the way to Cumbies.
We've
That's right,
rerouted
that's
the
right.
Ponset
All the
River.
way to come.
It is.
Anything else, Emilio?
No, that's it.
It's across from Nappers. I mean, so I hope,
Happy's, yeah.
Yeah.
so I hope there's gonna be a crosswalk in a logical location for people who live on Lewis Avenue,
This is great.
like me. All right.
I do have another question. Are you using concrete or asphalt for the sidewalk?
Asphalt sidewalks
It's asphalt, sorry.
and vertical granite curbing.
Right, okay, all right. Okay, that's all I've got.
Yeah, no further comments.
Al?
I have a concern about the
That's right.
way sidewalks have been built in town here in the past couple of projects. And I think the best example I can give you is in the area near Old Town Hall. You have a nice sidewalk, nice curbs and all, but you have a utility pole right in the middle. And that's stupid because somebody in a wheelchair can't get by. Either they have to get in the street or they have to turn around and go some other way.
I have a question, though. Is that a Mass DOT thing, or is
Well,
Don't answer that.
I see.
it's right downtown?
I see on figure 5, a picture of a utility pole and where the sidewalk is going to go. And I want to make sure that when this project is done, there are no obstacles like hydrants and signposts right in the middle of the sidewalk
Yeah.
to make it difficult for handicapped people. And even people that aren't handicapped, in some of these places, you can't walk side by side with somebody because the post is there.
Yep.
Okay, so I want to make sure that the guys that design these things take that into consideration when they're locating the sidewalk and the poles and things like that. I'm not so much concerned about whether you do the catch basin right. I know you'll do the catch basin right, because there's not too many ways you can do that. But you can certainly deal with having parts of walls and parts of posts and parts of hydrants and things right in the place where people are supposed to walk. So that's my only concern. I think that this project is a good project. I just, I'm concerned that the existing project that's going on 1A, it's taken this, what's this, the third year, and you still can't walk on either side, except where they put the beautiful suspended bridge across the river. You know, they put a beautiful bridge there, but any place else you can't walk along. So I want to make sure that this is another one of these projects that you give it out to contractors that it's going to be their life's work, and it goes years and years and years.
Yeah.
Okay, that's my only concern here.
So I have some good news for you. We are planning to make sure we have a minimum width. We've already survey located all the poles along the whole corridor. Actually, figure 5, there's a pole right here in front of 1121 Main Street, where the pole is located in what would be the center of the sidewalk, but in order to counteract that, what we're doing is widening the sidewalk to make sure there's adequate space. When we design these sidewalks, we have minimum clearances that we have to meet under the Architectural Access Board standards. So there's a minimum width specifically for somebody, you know, in a wheelchair to make sure that they can get by.
Okay.
Good. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Please identify yourself for the record. Okay. Someone make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
700. Okay, you've got your standard order for this? Okay. So we'll make that a motion for the hearing, for the order.
Does anyone have anything
Anything
to add
to
to?
add to it, the standard? Okay. Someone make that a motion?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, before you leave,
Yes, sir.
the project that Al just referenced on Main Street up where Quonset also crosses the road. There was a lot, there's several sections that were left exposed with gravel and/or sand or whatever over this weekend with the heavy rain we had, and it was washing down on Kendall Street, which comes into Main Street. You know where that is?
I believe I drove through it on the way here tonight, yeah.
Okay. So that should be cleaned up,
Okay.
and you're gonna have to redo whatever washed out. But there were no siltation controls for that. So that should be brought to their attention. That's part of the state project, right?
Yeah, so
Isn't that your
obviously,
department?
Mass DOT is a significant agency. No one at this table is managing that project, but
But you are here, so
we are.
direct.
Lucky you.
Down.
Passing the word along.
We'll make sure the person who should know is aware.
Yeah, just that they
Interested.
need to clean up what had washed out,
Okay.
as well as replace what had washed out. They need to clean it up.
Certainly.
Particularly the intersection at Kendall and Main Street and Plimpton and Main Street.
What was the second one? Plimpton?
Plimpton and Main. There may be others. I noticed those particularly where there's been significant washout. Okay? Now you can go.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Dismissed. Hearing's closed.
My rain gauge showed 3¼ inches.
Really rolling down the street.
Crazy. Honestly, that was crazy.
Why does the Concom have our own?
I don't know.
That's all right. That's all right, I have something stuck out in my mind, but that's all right.
Rules, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Re-engineering was pull off 12 times.
Let's see. Union Street. Town of Walpole, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, amended order of conditions, Conservation Commission. According to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, in the Wetlands Protection Act, Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw, knows hereby given the intent of R.J. O'Connell Associates, 295 Union Street, fee owner LLC, to amend the approved order of conditions, DEP number 315-1262, at 295 Union Street, map 21, lot 4-1, Walpole, Mass., for the modification of a basin within the 100-foot buffer zone. The amended order of conditions, application, and plans are filed at the Conservation Commission office. Public hearing in the above matter will be held in person July 12, 2023, beginning 7:10 p.m. All interested person requests will be present. And let's see what we have for the record. This is from the town engineer. He has reviewed the plans. Reviewed submitted information and discussed the project with Mr. McCarthy. Given the unexpected site constraints, desoils, groundwater, elevation, etc., the proposed conversion to a wet basin appears to be a reasonable solution. But no further technical comments or objections to the commission approving the amendment. Board of Health will be meeting before comments are due July 12th. Therefore, the Health Department would like to make comments based on Board of Health's previous motion. Board last saw this project in its June 7, 2022 Board of Health meeting, and the board voted unanimously that they have no concerns. The board commented that they are not in favor of construction within the wetland buffer zone and urges applicants to adopt standard best practices for mosquito mitigation. Okay. Representing the applicant?
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Brian McCarthy. I'm with R.J. O'Connell Associates. We're the civil engineers on the project, and with me tonight is Charlie Luce, who's the property owner. So this project was previously approved by this commission over a year ago. That involved the renovation of existing warehouse building on the property and improvements to the site related to parking areas, paving, and stormwater management improvements. And so most of the work on the site has been completed to date. We are finishing up on the paving was just finished recently. out there, and there's some landscaping to do. We installed the signage that was required for the, along the wetland boundary, for the protection of the wetlands, notice of the wetland line. And so we're here tonight to request an amendment to the order of conditions, and it's related to the stormwater basin. The stormwater basin was located at the front of the property near the entrance going into the site. And originally, the design that we had submitted included an infiltration basin in that area. And the infiltration design was based on a couple of test pits that were done in that area. Those test pits showed favorable soil conditions. The unfortunate part of it is that they were in areas that were, excuse me, in small pockets of favorable soils and weren't representative of the whole area and the soil conditions. So the request we're making is to modify the basin from an infiltration basin to a wet basin. Wet basin is a treatment device that's included in the DEP Stormwater Manual and Handbook. What we found when we were doing the excavation for the detention, the stormwater treatment basin, was that we found these soils that were not what we anticipated them to be. They're a really silty, tight, clayey soil that's there in that whole general area. In that type of soil, and we did a test pit in the basin area, and that same soil for that whole area extends below the groundwater level. So, and that type of soil is classified as a hydrologic soil D. And it doesn't allow infiltration of stormwater. It actually holds the water in the basin, will not let it infiltrate. So once we found these conditions, we had to reevaluate the basin design. So we went back, and we had monitored it over a while because we were doing the construction earlier this year in April, May. We had excavated it. It wasn't draining. Originally, we thought it was a sediment issue. But we cleaned it out, and then we found that the soils were just not what we anticipated them to be. So we looked back at the Stormwater Handbook, DEP Stormwater Handbook, to determine what best treatment device we could use in this condition, and that was the wet basin design. So a wet basin design is a basin that requires a permanent pool of water, which we have. But it also requires, the permanent pool has to be 3 feet deep. Our basin out there is pretty shallow, so in order to make meet the requirements for the wet basin, we need to excavate down another 1.7 feet to get that depth of permanent pool required for the wet basin design. The rest of the basin itself remains the same as what was approved originally. There's, point, go up here and point it out. There's, on this plan here, this is Union Street right here, and the access drive coming in here. This is the basin shape and design that was submitted. This here is the forebay on one side, and then we have a forebay on the other side. This piece in the middle was originally going to be the infiltration basin, which now we're modifying it to be the wet basin. So we take this area in here, we go down another 1.7 feet to get that 3-foot permanent pool. And then it meets the other criteria with the forebays and the wet basin in order to comply with the treatment requirements for sediment removal. So in this basin too, it's a sheet flow into this basin because everything's so shallow out there. So we sheet flow into the forebays before it spills over into the wet basin. This up here shows a cross section of the basin. This shows one of the forebays, the berm, and then the wet basin area here and the outflow over here. The outflow is a spillover from the wet basin to the wetland. So that's the modification we've made, and that's the request to amend the order to allow that design.
Okay. Landis?
Yeah, so I think Carl sent you an email, so I, was looking at the diagram from the handbook, page 64. And I've had discussions with other people before that the 4 bays, so with me, with something like that, you want to make sure the sediment stays out of the wet basin. Because the sediments are going to accumulate and take up storage, and if, cause issues with any of the plantings that you have. So the 4 bays, do you anticipate water always being in the 4 bays?
Yes, there will be water in these 4 bays, just because of the, again, the soil condition that's out there. Won't let the infiltration to happen. However, the inflow to the base, into the 4 bay, will still be treated the same way. The water will come in to the basin, it will go into the wet area of the basin, slow down to let that sediment out before the water builds up to spill over to the wet basin.
How do you clean the sediments out of the 4 bay?
So the 4 bay is, it's really only about 18 inches in depth. It goes from 95.3 to 96.7, so it's about 18 inches. 96.7 to 95.2, so about 18 inches deep. So it's a shallow. And then we have access over on this side to come into this basin here with like a bobcat or something to remove the sediment when necessary. Over on this side, we'll have access to this 4 bay from the other side to get to it.
So I guess the answer would be you'd wait during dry periods when,
That's a
so
good
if
point.
there's silt
Good point.
sands coming into the 4 bay and sinking to the bottom and it's wet and then additional water comes in, it seems like we'll just keep on churning up sediments if it's always wet.
Well,
We get into the
sorry.
water column and then overflow into the wet basin.
Yeah, so the water will, actually with the pool of water there, will actually act more like keeping the sediment down, because if it was empty and dry and you had flow coming in, then you kind of churn up what's in the bottom. But with the water in there, actually, it's going to help to keep that sediment down, because the water is going to come into a water surface area and not drop down to churn up what's in the bottom.
So as the new water sheet flows in, you anticipate it dropping more sediment and then just flowing over into the wet basin?
Correct, yes.
And then once it's in the wet basin, what's the treatment in the wet basin? So for the sediments, it's the 4 bays.
Right.
Or phosphorus or nitrogen or other contaminants. What's the treatment?
So when it spills over into the wet basin here, there will be, so the other part of this is we have a different seeding for this now. We changed the seeding to be a wet basin seed mix. So when we seed this wet basin, you're going to have vegetation growing along the edges of the pool and up the side slope of the pool. That vegetation is what helps to remove the phosphorus and those type of floatable type.
Right, so on the DP schematic, that's more of what it is, and it's sort of a, but on your schematic, it looked like your basin, your wet basin seed mix is just everywhere, right? That's what it looks.
Yes, it will cover the,
Key, which has the key for the wet basin mix, shows it in everything, the 4 bay and the wet basin everywhere.
yes, that's true. So we want to try to have the vegetation grow anywhere where there's water, so it helps with that pollutant removal. So even when you're in the 4 bay, you have the sediment that will drop out, but with vegetation around it, you still get more treatment for the floatable type.
So does your operation and maintenance plan reflect that process of the wet basin that, I think you described being mowed, so that if you're using the wetlands vegetation as part of the water quality component, that should be reflected in the O&M?
So we revised the O and M, we resubmitted that, and maintenance in the O and M comes out of the DEP Stormwater Handbook. So we take that maintenance criteria and we put it into the O and M. O and M.
So there'll be an inspection, I think, once a year, maintenance side slopes and embankments should be mowed twice a year. So you're mowing the side slopes twice a year. You're not maintaining a wetlands community, you're mowing it.
Yeah, so we took it right from the DEP handbook. So that was the criteria we followed.
Okay. I think the wet basin criteria permit, well, the wetlands, they have a couple of different things. The perimeter vegetative buffer access, maximum pool slopes. So I have to go through this, but it just seems like if you're mowing everything twice a year, that you're not gonna establish wetlands vegetation that's gonna help you with a nitrogen or phosphorus.
Well, we don't have to do that. We can remove that mowing requirement from the maintenance.
Or I guess it would depend also when you're mowing it, because
Yeah.
establishing a herbaceous layer, you don't wanna, it gets established in the spring and then they decide to
And
mow
then
it
mow
all
it,
down.
yeah, that doesn't make sense, right? So,
Maybe
yeah,
a
we
little,
can.
little more thought in the maintenance plan as far as the wet basin and what you're trying to achieve
Yeah.
as far as water quality. It is a tributary to the Chapel Brook, so, and I understand there was nothing there before, but, I also understand that you designed a basin that doesn't work. So we want to make sure that this does
Yep.
work and,
Yep.
and serves the best way possible for the Chapel Brook and the area. So that would be my suggestion, is just a little more thought of the maintenance and what you're planting and how it's being maintained. And the
Sure.
4 bays. Not sure how you're going to clean those out. That's it.
Okay. Dean?
What's the plan for, so the bottom of this basin is the same height, elevation of the groundwater, high mean groundwater, seasonal high groundwater.
Yes.
So theoretically, let's say we have a very high rain event, a lot of spring water, groundwater comes up, and all of this sediment and all this water goes spilling into the brook.
So the way it's set up is, that's why you have the 4 bays. The water goes into the 4 bays first, so that the sediment will drop out in those pool areas.
I understand. What happens when the water comes from below?
Right, but the sediment's heavy, you're saying it's gonna pick the sediment up?
With the groundwater, if the groundwater rises, yeah?
Yeah, so the sediment will fall out in a still pond area. It's not moving, so it's heavier than the water, so it's dropping to the bottom.
So what's the base of the basin gonna be made out of?
Oh, made out of it? It's gonna be the existing clay silt soil that's there, which is actually the requirement in the stormwater handbook. For this type of a basin, they want you to have that clay silt soil in the bottom,
I understand.
and yeah.
All right, so, okay, and so that, the wet basin, the big one in the middle, that spills out into the brook. Essentially, we are hoping TSS-free water.
Yes.
I'm also concerned with Landis on the removal, the maintenance plan. I'm interested in that. So is this, I'm gonna ask you, does this parking lot flood a lot?
When there's a significant rain event, it has some puddling, but besides that, it's mostly flowing into the basin we have now.
So no flooding from groundwater.
No.
Flooding from groundwater,
The
no.
groundwater's not coming up because of the soil that the site is made from,
Okay.
right?
All right, great. So experienced winds there, okay. Maintenance of the bays. What are you gonna do with the water currently in the basins when you do the work?
So we're gonna have to dewater it, and so what we'll do is we'll create a gravel pit with a sump wrapped in filter fabric, so that the water gets pumped out as clear of sediment.
Okay, if you could, please do not pump it right to the river.
Well, no, right.
Great.
No,
I have
no.
to explain that.
I know, yeah, I
People do
understand.
that all the time.
I understand, yep.
To the catch basins, which is a sediment retention, and try not to kick up the sediment when you're dewatering.
Yep.
That's it.
Really?
No questions.
No questions.
Medium.
What's that?
Okay, so it sounds like we have to continue this until we see some really clear planning, but I have a couple of questions about the wet basin in the proposed maintenance plan as it stands right now. So when you mow wetland plants, I think you're gonna cause eutrophication. I think you're gonna release all the dead, you'll have dead plant material, all those roots and rhizomes. And then phosphates will be released into your basin. The mowing part just doesn't sound like a great idea. It just sounds, I mean, with grass, it's different. You don't mind having the grass get a little of those nutrients, but you're not trying to do that in a basin. So that has to be rethought. And then also, is this like a clay, hard clay pan bottom on this thing?
Not hard, it's a mixture of a silty soil and a clay. It's not a hard,
As I was gonna say, how are your wetland plants gonna take, right? Because wetland plants actually like to grow in silt and sediment. A lot of them do.
right, so they'll, again, when we seed around the edges, you'll see actually, there's some vegetation growing on it already. Along where the water hits the soil along the edge, you'll get that growth on the side slopes.
Of what? What's in there right now?
I don't know the plants.
All right, that's it for the now.
Al?
I have a couple of comments. One is, I've seen that section of Union Street under a foot of water, okay? And I know that happens, so I'm not so concerned about that. What I'm concerned about is what Betsy just mentioned. When you mow, I'd like to see a system of mowing where you pick up all the stuff you cut. You don't just leave it there to rot and cause other problems. So the banks of this area where there's going to be established a permanent growth of material, my mind is that you should mow it once a year, and you should take out all the stuff you mow, not leave it there to cause more problems. So if you can include that kind of stuff in the operation and maintenance plan, along with removing built-up sediment amounts every couple of years, I think we have a chance that it could do as you say. But I think it's, to me, this is more realistic than the plans we saw before, and I think that it's good to see somebody has realized that a design that they had previously couldn't work. So I think this is a good step in the right direction. And I know that there are ways that you can prevent this pool of water from being so-called polluted. It could be aerated with a lighted fountain that is an asset to your site rather than the place looking like a prison colony. So I look forward to somebody with a little imagination coming up with a maintenance scheme to deal with these issues there. So I'm for doing something like this.
Anything else, Al?
Now,
What do you do for mosquito control?
No, we don't
We have a pest control monthly contract in place right now to handle all that kind of stuff.
Including mosquitoes
What-
in a
can
drainage
you-
basin?
What does that, does that include, I guess, what is it that, what do you do? Is that in your O&M plan of specifically how you control for mosquitoes?
We don't have anything in the O&M plan on that. Can definitely add something to it. There are those, you probably know them, those, we'll call them pucks.
Oh,
That
yeah,
you can get,
discs.
Yeah.
discs, that you can get to put in.
Yeah.
That would help too.
Yeah, because we don't want something toxic that will take care of mosquitoes, but we don't want that in the water there.
Yep.
So, yeah, something more detailed in your O&M
Okay, yep.
on mosquito control. And I think it should be specific with regard to the mowing, as suggested, mowing once a year and removal of what has been mowed. And removal of sediments, I would say annually, does that make sense? Do annually remove sediments?
To the, to the sediment forebays or the
Yeah,
basin?
well, the basin as needed, if it is. But the forebays would definitely need, I would think, should be done once a year.
Yeah, I think
There
the
are-
inspection is once a year and then the removal.
Yeah, so there is, so DP does have requirements for the inspections. I was actually trying to look that up, but their requirements are in the O&M that we submitted.
Okay.
I just need to,
Along with the mowing and removal of that the forebays be cleaned.
Yeah, they require removal of sediments every 10 years. So I think that what the commission is saying is that it should be inspected, and definitely the forebays, the sediment should be removed more frequently than that.
I would say
sediment, yeah, so, sorry, sediment forebays, the requirement is to inspect them monthly. And then we clean the sediment forebays 4 times per year. So that's a requirement, to clean them out 4 times a year.
4 times a year?
Yeah.
In the forebays, okay.
In the O&M, can you include how they're going to be cleaned out if they're wet?
Sure.
Okay.
So can I just clarify on the mowing, is the opinion to mow just once a year, is that
Yes,
once a year?
I think that makes sense, once a year for mowing, Landis.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
in the fall.
in the fall,
In the
yeah.
fall.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So you want to continue this till we get these revisions, or?
I'm okay if you want to go into the revisions, and then once we get the revised O&M, we'll issue
Okay. Yeah, we would really appreciate that, that would help.
Okay, so we'll make that a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 0, 0. And we're holding, that we're subject to the revisions.
Yeah, the revision of the O&M, and then once we get the
So we make that a motion then for the amendment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
7, 0, 0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oops.
Town of Walpole notice of intent, Conservation Commission public hearing in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Notice hereby given the intent of Edward Jameson, Allied Recycling Center, Inc., 1901 Main Street, map 48, lot 48, Walpole, Mass., to improve stormwater drainage within the 100-foot buffer zone. Notice of intent, application, and plans are on file. Conservation Commission office. Public hearing above matter will be held in person July 12, 2023, beginning at 7:15 p.m. All interested persons request to be present. There are comments from the town engineer. He reviewed the plans and the submission. In general, the plans are well prepared and show a design that is constructible. However, I offer the following comments. The system of numbering the details is flawed. The details should be numbered uniquely per detail number and sheet and referenced appropriately on sheet 4. Observed groundwater elevations are not provided, however, because several other proposed structures may be in the groundwater flotation should be considered in the design, usually solved by providing a foot on the base section of the structure. None of the profile views shown on sheet 5 are referenced on sheet 4. Sheet 5 detail 2-4 should be labeled South Basin Discharge. Sheet 5 detail 3/4 should be labeled South Basin Discharge to Wetland. Sheet 6, a longitudinal cross-section should be provided for the South Basin. Sheet 10, detail 10, outlet control structure provided RPM, GPM, pump rate, and TDH for each pump. Sheet 10, detail 10, outlet control structure, high and low alarm floats need to be provided. An audible visual alarm with a contact number for call when in failure. Control panel for the pumps will be needed to be located either on a pedestal near the outlet control structure or in a near building. If the control panel is inside, the audible visual should be located in exterior location with notification sign. Provide details for equalizer tank and active treatment system when designed. And the notice of intent, stormwater, the attachment, the stormwater O&M, recommend the O&M section be expanded to include the pump system specified for both basin outlet control structures. This should include providing regular inspection of bar and trash racks as well as system floats. Periodically, the pumps will need to be switched out and rebuilt. The O&M should also include the outline for operation and maintenance of the active treatment system. Notice of intent, Appendix B. The SWMM model output, this outlet and modeling is beyond our area of expertise. Recommend the commission seek peer review if verification of this model is desired. Existing site maintenance. Sheet 3 makes reference to various pipes and structures being either flooded or silted in. All site structure pipes which remain should be cleaned out as part of this upgrade. This is from the Board of Health. Board of Health will not be meeting for the comments of due July 12th. Therefore, the Health Department would like to make comments based on Board of Health standard motion. Board of Health is not in favor of construction within the 100-foot buffer zone. Representing the applicant.
Hello, I'm Emma Williamson from Geosyntec Consultants. Stephanie, we had sent a presentation. Would you be able to present it? Thank you.
Do you have a copy of this, of the engineer's letter?
That was sent earlier this week. Yeah, we have received that.
You have, okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. So this is for the Allied Recycling Center Stormwater Management. So the applicant is Allied Recycling Center. So the site is located at 1901 Main Street, as you can see from the figure on the right. So it's a metal recycling center The drainage area is approximately 14 acres, and about 85% of that is impervious cover. The stormwater discharges are permitted under the EPA's 2021 Multi-Sector General Permit, or MSGP. So the existing stormwater management on site consists of stormwater basins that discharge to outfalls. So stormwater is collected through gravity drainage, and there are two basins, the North Basin and the South Basin. Each basin discharges through a stormwater hydrodynamic separator to the outfall. So the North Basin discharges to outfall SP1, and the South Basin discharges to outfall SP2, and the ultimate receiving water is the Neponset River. So stormwater monitoring is conducted as part of the MSGP under the subsectors listed below, so the automobile salvage yard and scrap and waste metals. And the target water quality parameters are listed on the slide. The purpose of this project is to design and permit the stormwater management at the site in order to use state-of-the-practice technology to meet current and future stormwater regulations. So the proposed stormwater management consists of a stormwater system, expansion of the existing basins, and the addition of an active treatment system. So as before, the stormwater is collected via gravity collection of catch basins, diversion berms, and storm drain piping. Pre-treatment is provided via a hydrodynamic separator, deep sump catch basins, and a CIP pre-treatment chamber before the south stormwater basin. So both of these basins are proposed to be expanded to include outlet control structures and a pump chamber. The stormwater from both of these basins will be pumped to the active treatment system, and in the event of large infrequent storms, some of the stormwater will be discharged through the existing outfalls, SP1 and SP2. The active treatment system will add filtration and ion exchange processes to treat the stormwater, and the stormwater that passes through this active treatment system will be discharged through the new outfall, SP3. The design of this treatment system will be confirmed through a bench scale study, and the full-scale system will be developed by Water Tectonics. So this figure, which is also the same as what is shown on the plan here, just shows the proposed stormwater management that I discussed. So you have the two stormwater basins that collect stormwater via gravity drainage. And then that stormwater is pumped to the active treatment system, where it will be discharged through proposed outfall SP3. So there are impacts within the 25-foot no alteration boundary and the 100-foot buffer. This includes the basin expansion, the drainage work, and the active treatment system installation. And both of the existing outfalls and the proposed outfall are within this buffer, but there are no direct impacts to the wetlands. So we've received the comments from earlier this week and are planning on incorporating those, and we're just hoping for some clarification on whether a peer review of the model will be required, and if so, ideally we'd like to get started on that as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay, Landis?
So there were basins there are basins there now, so why are they being started? What has changed?
To better meet water quality parameters, just to improve the water quality.
To improve the water quality?
Yes.
And if I remember, they were, I think at least are they both concrete bottom basins? There's no infiltration for these basins.
No, they're not designed as infiltration basins, no. I would have to check. I believe they're both
I thought the North Basin was a concrete basin. Originally designed.
It may have been, but either way, there was no infiltration.
So the basin bottom will be designed so there's no infiltration.
Yes, I believe there's a liner, but I can confirm that.
And so on your plan, you have at silt fence, so generally we prefer compost stock to silt fence.
Okay.
It works better in the long run. And so the existing 25-foot no alteration area, is that vegetated currently where you're working?
I don't believe so, but I would have to confirm.
Okay, so, yeah, confirm that, and if there's mitigation for some plantings, except area you can dig around there. I think that was one of the issues, that you can't dig. Okay, so, yeah, it's a lot of, this is a very specific stormwater system, for a very specific place, for a very specific reason, that they're having to do this. So I don't have any other additional comments. We don't have a DEP number yet either, so,
Okay, we can provide that.
well, DEP would provide that.
Okay.
So they haven't issued one yet, and so they may have some technical questions as well, I don't know. But they can't close the hearing tonight anyways.
Okay, yes. Yeah.
And the peer review, yeah, I guess it's up to the commission. I talked to Carl a little bit about that, but my understanding this is sort of required to do this work by the AGs together. So must be done in a specific way to meet their requirements. So I think that's pretty safe that they'll be done the right way, but.
Probably a stricter review than our board.
The peer reviewer we normally would hire would probably be, it's a technical review. Those are my only comments.
Okay. Dean?
No comments.
Really?
No questions.
Doug?
Yeah, will there be a maintenance plan for the ion exchange system?
Yes, I believe that will be provided by the manufacturer, and that will be included as part of our O&M plan.
Thanks, no other questions.
You do? That's it?
Yeah, I have a question. So, what changed since last time we saw this site and permitted things? Were excessive amounts of metals detected by some agency?
I
Or
believe
have
there were
standards
some
changed?
water quality issues, as well as some of the standards have changed to be more stringent.
Okay,
So
so-
a combination of the two.
Okay, so what metals have been detected coming off the site?
I believe copper was the main concern, but I would have to check the water quality data.
And then I was wondering, what's the source of that copper, and why isn't it just simply being recycled? Because this actually was presented as a wonderful state-of-the-art recycling facility, like 10 years ago when we saw it, or 15 years ago. Why would they be losing any copper? I mean, what's the source of it? I mean, if I have a right to ask that, I don't know, it's probably not even our jurisdiction, but, what?
Copper pipe?
Well, except they're supposed to be recycling it. I mean,
Well, it's
not,
exposed, so water trickles through the copper, picks up little bits of copper dust and bits and gripes and.
okay. So when this was presented, it was a very impressive presentation that we had about 15 years ago, 10 years ago, in which there wasn't a single bit of anything going anywhere except where it was supposed to be going. So just wondering what wasn't,
What did that do with the life?
Yeah.
Yeah, the life of the bays maybe. And, well, honestly, it's standard, so they probably built a system that met that standards at that time.
Well, there's a significant amount of material that is stored, if you want to call it that, outside.
All right.
Big piles.
Anything else,
No
Betsy?
more questions, I guess.
Big piles of stuff.
Okay, first thing, you did a fine job of reading what you have on your computer, but I can't relate that to what I see on the plan that's posted or the plan that we have. You kept going on and on about this, that, and the other thing, but you didn't point anything out on this plan explaining what it is you were talking about. So I'm still a little confused about what's going on. But I can answer the question about where the copper in the water comes from. It's stored outside and part of the time, and it rains on it, and you get copper oxide and things like that in the rainwater, and that becomes a contaminant. And that's true of all the metals that are exposed to the weather. So I don't see that that's a big issue where it comes from, but somebody thinks it's an excessive amount coming off a large site like this with all this recycling that's making this stormwater contaminated. So, okay, so I agree that we should do something about that, but the explanation I received tonight doesn't tell me much about how that's happening here on this plan that we're looking at, or the plan that's posted. So I'd like a little better explanation of what you were reading on your computer.
Sure, I can point it out on the plan. So in general, stormwater is collected through gravity drainage, so through catch basins and a diversion berm shown here, and then catch basins here, here. I think that's it. And then the stormwater is diverted to these two stormwater ponds. So this one right here is the north pond, and this one is the south pond. So in the existing condition, both of these ponds discharge through outfalls. So this north pond discharges to outfall SP1, which is here. Sorry, here on the south side of the road. And then this south basin discharges to outfall SP2, which is right here. So in the proposed condition, stormwater would only be discharged through these existing outfalls during large storm events. So in the proposed condition, the stormwater from both of the basins is pumped to this active treatment system, which uses ion exchange processes to treat the stormwater. And then that treated stormwater is discharged through outfall SP3 down here. And that's the stormwater system. Sorry, would you like me to move this closer? I realize it's pretty far away.
Okay,
In
so
front of them.
the stormwater is discharged, and where does it go when it's discharged, since it has all this metal in a liquid form? Where is it going from there?
Well, it is treated through the ponds and through the system, but once it's discharged, it goes near this wetland here and then ultimately to the Neponset River. That's the ultimate receiving water.
So you're expecting the wetland to do the treatment? And
No.
Got a pre-treatment.
she has a pre-treatment.
2 ponds and an active treatment, which
I see
Yes,
the
that's
two
correct.
ponds,
The active treatment
and
area is right
they
here.
collect it, okay.
what are you using for
Ion
active
exchange.
treatment?
Wait a minute, wait, let's wait, one at a time.
Okay, so I'm just concerned that we get this material in the water, and somehow we have to get it out of it. And how are we getting the water cleaned? What's the process of cleaning the water?
So the stormwater basins and some of the gravity system provides pre-treatment, and then the active treatment system, the design is to treat the stormwater, and it's based on the water quality data that we've collected. So that is done through filtration and through an ion exchange process. So there's a coagulant added, flocculation occurs, and then there's settling, and then it's discharged.
So is that material that's filtered out ever taken away from there and used for some purpose or disposed somewhere else?
I would have to check with the manufacturer specifications. So this active treatment system is developed by Water Tectonics. So they do the chemistry behind the treatment. So they would have a plan as well for what to do of the disposed materials.
Well, if it's important to take it out of the water, I want to know where it's going. You know,
I mean, it would likely be disposed of in a landfill or some similar place that is designed to store it there. It wouldn't just be left on site to
Okay,
be
so-
added back into the stormwater.
so that becomes my only concern is after this material is filtered out, and I agree that it can be done. So, okay, so we filter it out. I want to know where it's going so that it isn't poisoning some land somewhere else. You know, we've had all these old landfills, very dangerous, and they make the news for years and years. And some of them will never be cleaned up. So I want to make sure that this material that's filtered out is going somewhere. Probably it could even be reused.
We can put that in our order.
Yeah.
Anything else, Al?
No, that's my concern.
Okay, I think we should have the O&M manual for the treatment process, what are you calling that?
Active treatment system.
Treatment system, to see what those recommendations are, if that's adequate for the maintenance and removal, and a removal in a satisfactory manner that meets whatever type of waste this would be considered, that it would be disposed of in accordance with those requirements for
Yes.
that type of waste. So we need that. And if that's sufficient, then that could just be included as part of the O&M manual. I think we need to review that and see what it
Jack,
says.
the routine maintenance that was submitted just says see manufacturer's specification, so for both the active treatment and the
Okay.
hydrodynamics, so probably need a little
Well,
more.
I think we need to know
Did you
what that
include
is.
Yeah, I don't think you included the.
No, those were not included, so.
Yeah.
Depending what they come up with, some would have good explicit directions, and some may just say, clean it up when you get a chance. So we want to know what it is. So, and we don't have a DEP number for this? Okay. So we need to continue the hearing. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Please identify yourself for the record. Okay. Continue till August 9th. What do we got on? Remember it went.
We didn't schedule one, because it went to September. Yeah,
So we have 7 o'clock
7 is open.
on August 9th. So we make a motion to continue this till August 9th at 7.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
700. Good, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Just so they're clear, so we're looking for compost stock as the erosion control. We're looking for more information on the maintenance plan of the two things we discussed. And
Would you let us,
Data? Oh, sorry. Did you guys want the data?
of what changed, yeah, I think Betsy could have brought up what changed.
okay, so water quality data?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please.
And would you let us know, as soon as you're able, if a peer review is required for the model? Thank you.
Thank you.
Take this, look at that.
This is the one that got away, huh?
Who, me?
Yeah, this is the project, this is the one that got away for your almost.
The only one you
last
didn't-
Meeting, almost set a record, I think.
Pass with flying colors.
When I took chemistry classes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is
We
the one that
always
got away.
were buying
Ah.
minerals in a
little container, you know.
What do we got? Gigi's already done? Walpole amended order of conditions, Conservation Commission public hearing in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Wetlands Protection Act, the Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw. The notice hereby given in the intent of Alan Gary to amend the approved order of conditions, DEP number 315-1284 at 8 Gigi's Way, map 34, lot 40, Walpole, Mass, for changes to the foundation and culvert within the 100-foot buffer zone. The amended order of conditions application and plans are on file at the Conservation Commission office. Public hearing the above matter be held in person on June 28, 2023, beginning at 7:25 p.m. All interested persons are present. Hearing's been opened and continued, and we'll just wait a minute for Landis to return. Let's see. Representing the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, my name is John Glosser, Glosser Engineering, 46 East Street in East Walpole. So, first of all, Mr. Chairman, I have right here are the latest revised plans, which were revised today. So you guys haven't seen them, but the revisions are kind of minor. So let me just hand them out. I think, did you have a chance to see them, Landis? I think they emailed them to you, so that's what they told me. Unfortunately, I got stuck in the field all day. I think there's only 5.
We can share.
For sharing, recovery.
Yeah.
Sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring. Okay, where are we? Spares proposed.
Yes, Gigi's with the culvert.
5 bedrooms.
So,
3-car garage, it's nice. Gotta have a place for the sports car. Right, I know, I need a 3-car.
sorry for my appearance. I was stuck out in the fields all day. So there's really only, like, essentially 3 changes to this plan. We had showed a 6-foot wide culvert, which wasn't even the size of the box culvert. So let me just go back a second. Excuse me. The purpose of the revision or the amendment to the order of conditions is to replace the box culvert, which was, proposed and approved by the commission with a corrugated metal pipe culvert. And what Alan Gary, the current owner of the property, is telling me is that the corrugated metal culvert is a lot less money, like $100,000 less than the concrete culvert. I'm thinking the reason why it's kind of like why that submarine imploded is box culvert has a flat top on it. You can push on it and it'll bend. It's concrete, so it'll break. The steel metal culvert is round, doesn't have a flat area on it, so it's harder to push on it to make it deform. And because it is steel, metal, even if you push on it temporarily, it will rebound and go back to its original shape. So it's not constructed the same way that the concrete one is. So originally, it was my fault. I told the draftsman, and he probably should have picked up on it. I said, oh, that's a 6-foot wide culvert, so show a 6-foot pipe, but we found out it was actually an 8-foot wide culvert, so then I told him, show an 8-foot pipe. But then Landis pointed out to us that we were sort of shy on some of the requirements, the openness ratio and the 1.2 width of the bank, full width of the intermittent stream that we're trying to cross. In my mind, when I was here last, I was thinking that this was in a different location. Down a little bit downstream of this, the stream actually gets very narrow, but in this location, it's not that narrow. Today and yesterday, we were out there. The actual width of the running water is about 7 feet. And the width of what was flagged as bank full by Lucas Environmental is 10 feet. So we checked that on the AutoCAD, and we actually staked it and measured it in the field, even though I don't know why those numbers would have been different, but my guys took it on themselves to do both of those. So we have to be 1.2 feet, 1.2% wider than the bank full, so now we're at a 12-foot corrugated metal pipe culvert. I didn't have a chance to talk to Alan Gary about this, but that's what's on the plan now. So that's going to meet it's going to take into account the whole bank full width that's out there now, plus another 20%. So that's right here, 12-foot wide. It still has about 3 feet of cover over it, just because it's down so low from the street. So we're not worried about that part of it. And this will be verified with the supplier that this is the proper, they just go by gauge, so they'll just make it a thicker steel pipe if they have to. And it's all comes down to cost, but I'm not exaggerating. When he told me the two numbers, and I'm telling you, they were $100,000 different, it's like, oh, I can understand why you don't want to do the concrete culvert now. So, I mean, even if he only saved $60,000 or whatever, it's still saving quite a bit of money. So there's the culvert there, right? We all kind of know where this is, the end of Gigi's Way, and it's there to the left. There's like a couple of oak trees. I think there's one that has to come out. And you can, if you want to go see it, it's staked out now, the location. And then just on... And then just on sheet 2, so now we're showing the culvert, we're showing the widths, we're showing the width of the channel, which is going to, so this is 12 feet, we're showing the banks, inside the culvert, so they're going to be 2 feet wide, 2 feet wide, so we've got about 12 feet, and so -4, so the channel width's going to be 8 feet through there. It's a very rocky channel right now, so we're just showing kind of a very rocky cross-section. We want to match what's there now. That's what we're asked to do. And so that was the change to the plan. The other change to this plan is that, Landis, you had asked about the retaining walls. So that retaining wall that's at the garage, the outbuilding. So this wall here, this wall here is, I think, about 6 feet high at its highest. So we're doing that stone strong, which is a 44-inch deep block. I think they're 44 inches this way and 48 inches this way. So I mean, that's what we use, anything more than 4 feet. That thing doesn't need any geogrid or anything like that, just the size of it. So that's this wall here. This wall here that you pointed out that we didn't have a detail is only 1 foot high. So there's a detail on here now. We're just showing boulders. It'd just be a laid up boulder wall. And then, Landis, you saw my email back to you. As far as those other things, I can't answer those questions. As far as habitat and that sort of stuff, I mean, that would have to come from Tom Liddy or someone, you know, from Lucas Environmental. That would not be, I would not be the person with the expertise to answer those questions.
Language of the regulations, but you meet those requirements if you have a, you know, if you're having an embedded culvert, which is what you're having, an embedded culvert that has an open ratio of at least 0.82 feet. A culvert shall span the channel a minimum of 1.2 times bank full conditions, so you're going over the stream bed and the bank, and that natural stream substrate and bank be recreated in the culvert with natural materials, and the embedded culvert to be sunk into the ground at least 25% for ground culvert. So when you meet those, you meet the other criteria
Okay.
for wildlife habitat and stuff. It's so that you're
Okay.
going over the stream, so there's enough space in the culvert
Right.
for any migration to occur, that there's some side, you know, that 0.2% is so that they don't have to all travel through the water if they don't want to.
Right.
So it's access,
Right.
as well as so there's enough volume that I think DEP has just realized that over the years that when you sink a culvert so that all you're designing for is the flow through, that it causes scouring, it causes damage to the pipe, when it comes out of the pipe, it can cause erosion, all sorts of things. But if you're just putting the culvert over the existing
Right.
stream, then you shouldn't have those issues. So that's why they went to the streamwater standard.
Well, I would just say, from what you read there, the requirements, I would say that this meets all of those, yeah.
Much better last minute.
Right.
planning.
Yeah, so again, just to recap for, if you don't understand, I mean, we have an order of conditions to do the concrete. The concrete one's only 8 feet wide. And Alan Gary, the new owner who bought it from Michael Viano, wants to go with the round culvert because of cost. We, as I said, I mistakenly thought originally it was 6 feet, then we came here and we said, oh, we'll change it to 8, but then Landis pointed out that even 8's not gonna make it, because, you know, we have the location of the top of bank at that spot, that was, as Landis said, it was, flagged, delineated in the field by Lucas Environmental, and then it was peer reviewed by, I forget who the person, Ecotech, I remember meeting them out there. So, and now we're just simply trying to, maybe not simply, but trying to change it from that square culvert to the round culvert.
Anything else, John?
That's all.
Okay. Landis, anything more?
No, so we just need, right, so we need a PDF copy. Are these reduced? These are
Yeah, I
reduced?
have
Right, okay.
I have full set,
Okay.
or one full size here, or two maybe. There's two full size here. Don, who works for me, did tell me that he PDF'd it to you, but I can check in the morning to make
Yeah,
sure.
so it depends on the size of, because it doesn't get to us.
Yeah, it might be too big. He might not have realized it. You'll get it tomorrow. I'll take care of it. Hopefully. I'm not gonna be out of my office for 12 hours.
Anything else? Dean?
No questions.
Bailey?
No questions?
Doug?
No questions.
Emilio? Betsy?
It seems like an amazingly large pipe. Like, is that's more than, not even 12 feet across, is it?
No.
Wow. It's just amazing that that pipe is gonna arrive and get installed. At some point, you might consider a bridge, but I know that that's not my purview to say that.
I would think, Betsy, at some point, you might consider an arch. So an arch, you would put footings on either side. An arch would even be better.
Yeah,
I'll ask him about that. If an arch is less money, or similar money,
yeah,
it's better, because now we're not even touching the bottom
Yeah.
of the stream. We're just gonna put footings
you're
on.
not wasting all that metal.
you're not wasting
It's
all
got a
that.
humongous
So
amount of metal
I
underground.
will ask him about
Yeah.
that, if that is something that, he can research it, and if it's similar cost, he should put in an arch,
Yeah.
rather than dig up the stream bed and then replicate.
And in fact,
It's better just to leave it.
You're
leave it.
6 foot something, so it's like way up
It's
to this,
big.
it's a giant, wow.
Right, but the reason we can do it,
It's some of
if
the
you
town.
remember being over there, is the road is so much higher than where that
Yeah.
is. We're just,
Yeah.
and we can't go down like this. So we-
No.
So even at 12 feet, we're still,
Well, we have some of those cast arches in town anyway,
yeah,
and they work.
yeah. And I'm gonna guess the cost is similar, but for now,
Anything else, Betsy?
No, no.
Al?
No,
Looking through there, what is the length of this? Didn't find,
22 feet.
is that, okay, there is a note here for 20, and that is I'm looking on sheet 3, note 2 in the bottom left corner, says the opening is 3.5 feet deep by 5.9 feet wide by 22 feet long. That is the pipe.
22 feet, yep.
That's the pipe opening, okay. Yeah, I would think they may want to,
It's
think-
big pipe, but.
I
we
think
have
you
to
can
meet-
get it.
We have to meet the standards.
well, yeah, but I think from a transport standpoint, I think you can get a 12-foot wide on a truck without having special needs for the transport of it.
Yes,
But more than, I think 12 feet is the maximum
right,
without special consideration on transporting it,
right.
so, but it's still gonna
It's a
cost
big,
something, yeah.
it's a
it
big
is.
piece of metal, so,
Yeah.
as I said,
So I
he
think-
might find out that an arch is,
I think we should include in our order that and the amendment, that the applicant should review a concrete arch.
or a metal arch too, a metal
Or
arch.
an arch, okay, arch type of bridge.
So your plans, the first one shows the wider culvert.
Oh, there was an,
Or, 5 still show the narrow culvert, even though this is a 12 diameter, so I guess that's okay. It's just whoever's. It's one of those details.
you can put it in the order. It's a 12-foot.
It's a 12-foot.
By 22-foot long.
span, however, okay, so,
Okay.
right, so if he goes to an arch, then you just have to submit a modification, because that arch would require footings, but you wouldn't have to dig up such a huge area.
No, they would not, right,
Yeah.
right. We wouldn't be digging in the.
Did you get the pipe and just cut it in half?
Well, that's what the architect, when it comes, I think if you need more things screwed onto it.
Okay, and what kind of metal is this culvert?
The steel,
Steel?
Still be coated with whatever they coat them with.
Yeah.
galvanized steel.
There's galvanizer also, maybe even coated with something. Okay. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Okay. So we'll make a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
700. So we'll accept the amendment as presented with the provision that an arch will be investigated, and if necessary, you would report that back to the commission.
yeah. I'm definitely gonna ask Alan about that. And definitely let you know if he answers.
Yeah, I don't see this 12-foot diameter pipe being that inexpensive.
No. And if it costs $60,000, how about just a stonemason to make a gorgeous Stone Arch.
Okay. All right. Did we sign anything? Did we vote that? We vote the amendment. Someone make that a motion?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. 700.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's costing millions, I'm sure millions.
Nobody's talking about that.
Could even make a wooden arch.
The only problem is how you design that for fire truck load, you know.
Oh, that's right, it's gonna be a fire truck load.
They're still doing
Fire
weekends
truck's
too
gonna
after
go over.
this.
Moving vans, garbage trucks.
So midsummer.
We can have that.
So you have the Renar and West Street order of conditions and land disturbance permit conditions. Someone is here tonight waiting for
Find that.
Boston Sunday, there's nothing, no issues.
So that's a closed public hearing, so you don't have to read anything, but, so and you all got the boilerplate, conditions for a project this size for stormwater management, and then recommended additional conditions are in my report.
Anybody have any questions regarding the special order conditions? Dean?
No.
Bailey?
Nope.
Doug?
No,
Leo? That's it?
No.
No?
it's okay.
Okay. So someone want to make that a motion for the order, so that with these order conditions as prepared?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
700. Thank you. Okay, where is that? Another piece of paper to sign. Where were we on the, red mark, okay, I got that.
Certificates of compliance?
Next would be certificate of compliance for Boyden Lane. So what have we got here? Okay, Boyden Lane, Lot 4.
So Boyden Lane Lot 4 is the lot that's at the end of the cul-de-sac, which the basin resides on. And work is complete, the area is stabilized, the lots are in, and it's fine to issue.
Okay, someone want to make that a motion to, for Lot 4, 16 Boyden Lane?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 700.
Oh, and that's with continued conditions 27 to 30, by the way.
Yeah, with continuing conditions. Yes.
jump to lot 6.
You want to go to lot 6, okay, that's 11 Boyden Lane?
Yep, so lot 6 is as you're coming down Boyden Lane, it's to the right. It's the lot which went through a couple of different modifications with a little wetland sitting in the front yard that takes in flow from the larger wetlands on the other side through a 12-inch RCP pipe. And this, one of the modifications was to put a retaining wall at the end in front of the house. The wetlands bounds are in, the retaining wall is in. The original plan shows at the end of the retaining wall that there's a spillway, and then there's a grass swale that comes down the boundary of the lot line to lot 5 to bring the overflow to the rear of the dwelling. In the past, there had been some issues with this little wetlands filling up, and rather than seeping into the ground, sort of a mystery how it released originally, but it overflowed and discharged towards lot 5. So the idea was to create a spillway and a swale, grass swale, to convey the water to the rear. There was some stones that were, large stones that were put in the area of the spillway. It's not quite, I'm not quite clear of how the water would discharge out. Mr. Petrosi here, he might want to expand on this. During the last quite heavy rainfall that we had, it didn't appear like there was an overflow, as well as Mr. Petrosi said there was no overflow. So I think everything's been met. If it overflows and is not functioned as the original design, Let the neighbors do it.
Let the homeowners decide what they want to do. Did you want to make any comments on, this is lot 6?
Thank you. Lou Petrosi from Wall Street Development. I'm here on behalf of the homeowners, I guess you would call it, because all the properties have been sold up on Boyden Lane. And we're attempting to complete the process with the planning board to have the roadway accepted as a public way. One of those requirements is have a certificate of compliances on the lots, as well as on the subdivision itself. So, you know, it's been quite a long time. These houses were all sold last year or the year before. So some of the homeowners have done other improvements to the property since we've been left there. On this particular property, I think the homeowner just resodded the whole front yard, and the landscaper might have put a couple of stones at the end of the existing wall. And Landis and I met out there yesterday, and after the rainstorm of Monday, and there was, the area was bone dry. So I don't think there's a problem there, but there is, what's the definition of a spillway? I mean, there are 2 boulders there with an area in between the 2 boulders for the water to leach out or pass out and go down the swale that we've created. So it seems like a little bit, you know, when they resodded it, it looks like they kind of might have flattened out the swale directly adjacent to where these 2 boulders are, the spillway would be, but there was no evidence of any erosion on the adjacent lot. And, you know, the rains on Monday were very, very heavy, so I think it's working fine. We haven't had a problem there, you know, since we did that work.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the main component also is that the plan called for an earthen berm, I think to prevent the flow from going
Further down.
down the grade towards lot 5, so.
Yeah, but, you know, in the middle, there is an earthen berm. It's just a question of how, you know, it's a slight berm.
it doesn't require a lot of, it's probably like a 6-inch bowl, basically, from side to side. Wouldn't you say that, Landis, about 6 inches, give or take? But,
You're okay with the way it is?
I mean, I don't know how else to describe it.
No, it's
a little bowl,
right,
it's
so
like,
what I would say is that as far as the protection of the wetlands, that it's fine the way it is. I wasn't totally convinced that if we get a lot of storms like we did, during your construction, that there's not gonna be an issue again, but I feel that at this point, that's probably issue between the neighbors rather than.
Right. I think historically, when the ground is frozen, that creates more of a problem. Ground is frozen, we have torrential rainstorms instead of snow, and that's kind of what, water has no way to go into the ground, and that might cause a problem later on, but we haven't had that since we did this work. All of this past year, we didn't get any snow, we got plenty of rain, so,
Okay. So, someone make a motion then to issue the certificate of compliance for lot 6, 11 Boyden Lane.
So moved.
Second?
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. 700. So we got that one's done. Now, lot 5, 15 Boyden Lane. There is an issue with,
Plan called for no alteration plaques at the toe of the slope, and they're not there.
so we need those.
So there seems, how should I put this? There seems to be an area of question regarding a question of the wetland boundary that was on the original filing. As you may recall, the adjacent property is now under consideration for a 2-lot subdivision, and that wetland line is significantly further away from what was originally called out on this, for this lot. So I have advised the homeowners not to put the bounds in because the line, the bounds were supposed to go 25, to protect the 25-foot buffer. Now, if there's no 25-foot buffer, then on their property, there doesn't seem to be a need to have bounds to protect something that doesn't exist. So, unfortunately, the issue with the Warwick Road subdivision has been in a quasi-state of appeals, so we haven't been able to make a final determination on that, so.
Well, the only thing is that in order to have certificate of compliance, you need to comply with what is shown on the plan as it was approved, and that shows the plaques.
Right,
So they need to be installed.
Well, I was suggesting too that we'll have to come in with a request for a modification or an amendment then to move the bounds off of the, 25 feet from where the wetland line is today, not where it was 10 years ago. That seems to be the issue.
That hasn't been verified yet.
Well, it hasn't, but it seems to me like
Well,
we're
if you
gonna
want-
have to do with that.
You want to, we will hold this off, we will not issue
Yeah.
a certificate of compliance.
It's
If
fine.
you want to request an amendment to the plan
Yeah.
that would alter the
He has to
wetland
get the
line,
wetlands
that would-
reflagged?
That's,
He would have to get them reflagged?
But let me explain, I don't know if.
doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. If you want, either you put the plaques in, or you request an amendment
Yeah.
so that you don't have to have the plaques if you think they're not required.
Right. I don't know if you recall, but we had an ANRAD before the board, and we had an issue with that line up in that area, and the commission approved it up to a certain point, and we left it open
Right.
for the balance. So I think maybe we need to get that line resolved at this point, and so these don't.
We'll hold off on this
Sure.
because you will be requesting change.
Yeah, the only thing I would ask is that it shouldn't hold up the process with the planning board relative to the street acceptance.
Planning board wants certificate of compliance, we're not gonna issue a certificate of compliance
Well-
unless you put the blacks in.
It's a certificate of compliance on the road, on the subdivision, not necessarily on the lots. So I'll refile that. I had previously filed it, and then because the engineers were behind in getting some of the work done that Landis had requested and what the town engineer had requested, we took it off the agenda. So I'll have to refile that. And subdivision is complete according to the order of conditions that you've.
Well, have you requested a certificate of compliance on the subdivision?
Like I said, I did, but the plan that we had submitted was deficient in a couple of areas and needed to be addressed. Now they have been addressed, and I'll resubmit that for the next meeting.
So you will request certificate on
On
at
the
a
subdivision.
future meeting?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So I have a
Good enough.
question, does he have to get the wetlands reflagged?
Let's see what his amendment request is.
But if his amendment is that the
Doesn't matter.
wetlands are in a different place, then
That's,
have to
they
get-
were reflagged, You have an ANRAD that was,
Let's see what the request is, and then we'll take it from there. Okay. Just one other thing while you're here. You had sent in a request for discussion on a couple of the orders of conditions, a couple of items on the order of conditions for 15.
Pinnacle. 15
Pinnacle Drive. That is not on the agenda, so that we cannot discuss that this evening. If you would like, we can put it on the agenda. Our next meeting is August 9th, I believe, isn't it August 9th, 7th?
August 9th?
August 9th is our next meeting.
I was hoping that we would have a discussion tonight, but, because it'd save us all the possible appeal or legal.
I understand, but it's an item, if we do that, it should be on the agenda, and it's not, it was,
Not on
got it.
the correspondence?
No.
I mean, that's an agenda item, and that's on the correspondence, so.
No, it doesn't fit, there's nothing, it's not on our agenda to discuss that,
Let's see,
so.
Can you take it up on the Pinnacle Trail?
No, that's a different subject. Same name, different subject.
Okay, well, we'll see if we can work it out then at the next
Okay.
meeting. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Good enough. Okay, what else are we gonna do here?
Six different phones going on all night.
Reorganization.
Okay, we have reorganization. You didn't have any minutes, right? No, okay. Reorganization, we start, someone wanna make a nomination for vice chair?
I'm going to nominate Betsy.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay. We didn't ask you if you were willing.
Oh, yeah, no, I
okay.
talked about it with Al.
Okay. All right, and we need a nomination for chair.
I nominate Jack.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Anybody else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Welcome. And thank Al for his time and
Yeah.
devotion to
How
the
many years have you been vice?
I don't know.
Many.
It's been, yeah, it's
What are you
it's
gonna
a
do if your
few.
chair's a little closer now?
So, we thank Al for all of his time and effort and expertise over the time that he's handled that, so thanks again, Al.
Thanks, Al.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Al.
Okay, what else have we got here? Right. I don't think there's anything at this point for the North Street issue, is there? Nothing to discuss there, is there?
No, I don't think there is.
No, okay. Willow Pond, nothing new there. Pinnacle Trail, nothing, has there been anything new on that?
No.
Okay. Master plan update, anything new for that, Dean?
No,
Okay. Enforcement orders, is there anything different, new that, on these issues? Okay. Appeals are still holding. So, anybody have anything else?
Appeals, other grievances.
Okay. Are you ready? Someone make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Good, thank you.